We're going to move right along to Ward 1's challenger, candidate Joe Murphy.
Thank you, Colin, and thank you everyone for putting this together and showing up tonight. I know we're not going to get all the debates we usually get, but I definitely enjoy talking to voters and exchanging ideas. So this is my third time running for Ward 1, and you know, not a lot has changed in between the first and the third campaign. I'm still talking about the same things. I want to reestablish communication between the Ward 1 councilor position and the residents of Ward 1. Right now, it's just not happening at the level that anybody in Ward 1 seems happy with. I hear too many stories about just not hearing back, and I want to change that. I want to change that to the point where I want to have weekly office hours where people who don't want to put their head in the lion's mouth on Facebook can reach out, you know, stop off at Dunkin' Donuts or Cagney's, wherever I'm having it that week, and just talk to the ward counselor face to face. I want to have community meetings again. We used to have them a lot in Ward 1. That's changed the last 4 years. We pretty much don't have any general community meetings where people can show up and hear what's going on and tell their counselor what they're concerned about. In past campaigns, I outlined my vision for Ward 1 and Quincy in general. I spoke about roads, infrastructure, potholes, seawalls, and sewer mains, and I also expressed concern for the city's financial situation, how we were going to leave our children a mountain of debt and a few rich developers. I called for an outside independent review of the city's financial situation 2 years ago, and now the mayor has taken out a $500 million bond to pay off pensions and kicking our debt way into the future for our children to deal with. And so I really wish we could have had that independent review in the last couple of years, because I'm not sure I'm convinced that's the right move. Real quick, I don't know what's going on with the Maritime Center. Nobody in Ward 1 seems to know what's happening there. There's rumors that the new marina that Mayor Koch is trying to get done behind the CBS might be where the Maritime Center goes now. I hope that's just a rumor, but again, these rumors take on a life of their own because we don't get any information. It's been 4 years since we've really had any kind of news on the Maritime Center. And that's been my opponent's whole tenure. So finally, campaign finances are an issue in our city. I'm not taking any donations this campaign because I want to show that you can still reach voters, you can still get a message out there without taking tons of developer money. And with that, I'm all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Our first question, which I believe you've already answered somewhat. Many candidates stress the importance of improved communication and how they will have greater transparency. Please give one specific example of something new that would improve communication and transparency. Again, you've already touched on this.
Yeah. I want to get back to original thoughts from our counselor on either through a newsletter or on Facebook, or, you know, like I said, office hours and community meetings. I mean, right now, what we see is information from our counselor that's passed by cutting and pasting screenshots from the website, or, you know, today what I noticed was we had a screenshot from the paving company on C Street that had a lot of good information out to our residents, and our counselor just took the screenshot and pasted it on his pages. And it's okay to do a little bit of that, but that seems to be like 90% of what we see. We don't get to hear what he's thinking. We don't really get to hear what he's worried about. We just kind of get, it's almost like a parental situation where he knows best. Don't worry, he's got it. And oftentimes he does, but That's not democracy. That's not representative government. That's monarchy. We want to be involved in what's going on in our ward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Murphy. We'll move right along. Question 2, if you could change one thing about the zoning code, what would it be and why?
Well, I want in 2022, there's coming out with a new code. That's when it's scheduled to come out. And one option is to have the stretch code, which basically ensures that we will be putting in like the highest level of energy energy efficiency and environmentally friendly code. And I think if we didn't learn anything from Superstorm Riley, it's that we need to start recognizing the urgency of the situation. And I'm not sure that everyone currently elected recognizes the urgency. Some studies predict that parts of my ward will be underwater in 30 years. My kids are young enough that that's going to be, they'll be my age dealing with that. So we have to start thinking a little bit bigger about how to tackle this. Just like when we had Superstorm Riley and we were rescuing people with front loaders and National Guard equipment, and we had, you know, Lieutenant Gallon like basically up to his neck in water. Like we were urgently solving that problem. Well, if we urgently attack the problem beforehand, I think we'll be better off in the long run, and we can be a leader to other cities. And then you get a bit of a momentum going. And listen, Boston is doing it. They're putting in better code, and their environmental justice statistics are even a little bit better than ours. So.
All right, thank you. We will now tackle question 3. In your own words, can you define critical race theory in relation to civic planning or social structures in our city? Do you think the city can benefit from this type of thinking? Why or why not?
I chuckle only because I watched the school committee debates the other night, and that was one of the questions. Can I define critical race theory? Not really. But what I can tell you is I don't think our schools should be scared of the truth. I don't think it's teaching them to hate or you know, look at themselves any differently, to know what truly is going on in our history. We don't need to give a saccharine, you know, watered down version of history. I have 2 kids in school right now. They don't want that. They want to know what happened. And when I tell them, well, you know, there were people that looked like us that were unfair and cruel to people that didn't look like us. Sure, they're like, oh, that's terrible. But it doesn't affect who they are as people. It just goes to show that they're going to go out and live their day a little bit nicer and be, you know, a little bit conscious of the struggles other people have. So I don't know why it's this big bugaboo, to be honest.
Okay. The 4th question. As a city councilor, you would have some budgetary decisions. How do you define your priorities in next year's budget? And the follow-up, how do you intend to balance the needs of the taxpayers with the plans for city growth?
Yeah, well, that's where the rubber meets the road, so they say. I'm not anti-spending. I'm not against new initiatives. What I am is asking this question before every decision. How does this benefit the people of Ward 1 and the people in Quincy in general? And if there's some short-term benefits, we need some of those as well. Like we're doing all this revitalization and development, and it's taking way longer than anyone expected. And the average Quincy citizen doesn't really feel that these big projects are helping their life, you know? So I think we need to make smarter deals with some of the developers, not give away the farm so much, be mindful of the purpose of money. Like for instance, like we're not getting sent federal COVID relief money to buy buildings for our community college. And anyone who thinks that's what it was intended for is kidding themselves. What we need to be doing is thinking about how we can benefit, make everyone's life a little bit easier, a little bit better with the spending we do. And I do believe we need to rein in some of the extra spending, because I don't want my girls to not be able to do anything with their city because they're in like whatever the bankruptcy proceeding for cities is called, chapter something or other.
Very good, thank you. Our fifth question has to do with unions. So our community supports our city workers, all workers, in their right to bargain collectively. How did you support labor and their rights to collective bargain for wages and benefits in your campaign?
In this particular campaign, I haven't really been focused on that, but let me tell you a little bit. I am extremely pro collective bargaining. I'm a former union member of the Musicians Union. I was a representative representing us in major squabbles with record companies and movie companies. I definitely believe that the average workers deserve to be paid a livable and actually a good wage. Everyone has a right to a good life. This is a little off topic, but I just found out today that the MIT, where I work, their endowment had a return of 55% last year. It's obscene. And I work there. I don't think that's going to trickle down to me at all, you know? And I think it's perfectly good and something to be supported that the workers in the city and the tradespeople in the city get together and demand good wages and good benefits. And I would support them every step of the way.
Very good. Just to give you an update on your time, you have about 3 minutes left, one of which we suggest you use for your closing statement. So with that in mind, we'll do one final question.
Okay.
Most years, a few controversial issues come before the council. How will you balance listening to the concerns of all your constituents, yet still knowing and having to make a decision that may and should not please everyone?
Well, this is part of the deal. Delivering bad news or disappointing news to your constituency is part of the job. In fact, I think part of the reason Ward 1 hears so little about what's going on is because it's a lot of news that isn't pleasant to pass along. And if you're afraid to give the bad news, you don't belong doing this. You know, I think we're all too worried about terms and getting back elected and all that. I'm not concerned about that at all. All I'm concerned about is restoring a representative style government, at least in my ward. In my ward, I won't always do what everybody wants. In fact, some of the issues are 50-50. You know, I'll make the best decision I can that I think is best for the ward and best for Quincy. But you can't be scared of that. You know, you can't hide these issues. You can't just not have meetings. You can't just not meet with people or call them back because they're not going to like what you have to say. So I'm willing to be popular or unpopular as long as I'm being a fierce advocate for Ward 1.
All right, thank you, Mr. Murphy. You have about 90 seconds left. So would you like to begin your closing statement?
Sure. I've said many times that if you elect the same people, you elect the same priorities, you elect the same issues, you elect the same ideas. So if nothing changes, nothing changes. It's an old adage that I think about every day. I'm always surprised when I hear voters talk about, like, I can't believe this is still a problem. Well, part of the reason is we keep electing the same people. It's not healthy. We need to have some fresh ideas in there. We need some fresh energy. You know, it can't be the same old, like, it can't be, I'm going to be the administration's deputy in the ward. It's got to be, I'm going to be the representative in the ward. I'm going to go and I'm going to annoy some of my colleagues at the table. They're not going to like everything I have to say. The mayor might not like me sometimes, but he's going to like me other times because I'm going to work my butt off and I'm going to advocate for people. And in the end, I think everyone here cares about Quincy. So as long as you're doing what's right for Quincy, I think you'll be fine. And that's going to be kind of like my North Star.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Murphy. We appreciate your
Oh, no
time.
problem. Thanks for doing this.